You're gonna be okay.
I'm gonna be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
But with the bass drum, and right off the bat, I was like, man, this is going to be a lot of fun.
When they came in, they just went straight into it. They started talking about how they want to shoot it, what different types of cameras, started talking about the architecture. Julie Berghoff, who's our amazing production designer, had a few images that she had already started putting together. And then we started talking about color and tone and this idea that it was going to be a group of people that work in this studio, in this specific world, that were each going to be unique to their own characters. So that like if you saw something, you would know exactly which character that belonged to. The color palette was very important because the way that Seth described it was that whenever you saw anybody outside the studio that worked in the studio in another environment, that you knew exactly that they were at the studio and then everybody else was like the outside world. And also just this idea about Hollywood and the love of old Hollywood, the architecture of movies, films, just the studios back then, the way that things were made, that we really wanted to incorporate into the show.
Do you have a wardrobe department or something? Somewhere I can maybe get a sweater or something more casual?
Seth was very clear that he wanted to always be in double-breasted suits. I saw that he was starting to incorporate suits into his own personal wardrobe. So I said, why don't you bring some in so I can kind of get an idea how you've been wearing them. So we took a lot of like the softer shoulders in his jackets and just the way that the double-breasted was kind of cut to his body and incorporated that into our own designs for the suits. We custom made quite a few of the suits for him, which was fun. And it just allowed us to kind of control the color and tone and texture and everything. But then we also purchased a lot and just changed things to kind of suit his very unique silhouette.
And I have to say, this is impressive. Is that tailored?
Yeah.
It's brown.
I mean, it's rust kind of.
That was like a rust colored velvet. And we custom made that one as well because there are so many stunts that we needed, once again, to control the color. Seth and I talked a lot about lapels, how this character would always have a wide lapel. And we incorporated many different variations of that lapel, like with peak collared, how wide. Sometimes it gets wider, like towards the end of our season, it gets really wide. And that was to like show his ego growing or whatever.
I dress casual when I go to a set. Have you seen how these slobs dress? Like cargo shorts with calf tattoos?
He is Sal Saperstein, 100%, and he brings that energy into the fitting rooms. But for him, for all the cast, I put together boards of like separate, very unique ideas for each character, color palettes, and just visuals. Once again, either they're stills from films, or they're runway photos, or they're just like photos that I found online. A lot of them are like actors and actresses from like the 60s, 70s, some more from the 40s, because I wanted to incorporate all the eras into our show. I always like to kind of write a little backstory in my head, and then I'll share them. Like with Seth and Evan, I shared like, this is who I think this person is and why they would dress this way. I think on Ike's board, it was a lot of Christian Bale as American Psycho, because it's, I just imagine that character like going to the tanning salon, putting on the oils, all the beauty things, and always looking sharp. She didn't come together until they cast Kathryn Hahn. There's a lot of ideas around her, but then when they cast Kathryn, it was like, oh no, we can actually go bolder. It takes somebody that can really wear something like that. And Seth and Evan Bolster, they're like, we know a few people in the industry and they have this way about them where they will dress younger than they are and talk younger than they are, but they're in a very powerful position in their job and they can pull it off. I wanted to bring in the same palette, but with her, she's much more military, like just her personality. So she wears a lot of camouflage, even if it's designer camouflage. A lot of armor. It's like all of her Cartier bracelets and all of her gold and diamonds and all that. And her hair. I mean, the hair makeup department. Once I started sending them fitting photos, they were like, oh yeah, let's go. And then you get Kathryn out there working it like nobody else. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do. She was an amalgamation of a lot of different people. I actually relate to her a lot because I went through a phase of wearing suits and ties to work a lot. And it's just this I just remember this feeling of like, I'm all business. you know, like I'm buttoned up, I'm here to work. And I think for her, she doesn't want to be seen as a secretary. She wants to be seen as one of the boys. She can work just as hard, just as fast, and she's just as smart. And I think she's trying to prove that to them. So she's not wearing anything that's going to make her overtly sexualized in any way. And also she's like a mini Matt Remick. So it's like her version of his suiting. And we see her towards the end of our series when she finally gets a film greenlit, and there's this style shift that happens to her. So yeah, it is very kind of 1930s suitings with like 70s kind of stylizing for her. Catherine O'Hara's character is Patty, and who this person was. I mean, she is one of the top producers in Hollywood. She wouldn't skimp at all on what she would wear, especially if she's expecting to win. There's a lot of psychology behind it. And also it's Catherine O'Hara who has so much history. She's played so many characters. And then you even see her at award shows and she just looks incredible. And I'm like, I either have to do the same like that level or top it, or, you know, I've got to bring something to the game. I looked around, we pulled some dresses, but it wasn't until I started looking at Jenny Packham, just because it had the spectacular sequin and beading to it and craftsmanship to it. And she designs for royalty. So it's like Catherine O'Hara's royalty to me. And then she had this one that was bronze, and it was right in the color palette that we had for Patty. And it was just gorgeous. And I was like, okay, this has to be it. And Catherine put it on, no alterations needed. And she was so happy. For me, it's like in the fitting, if the actor is happy and feels comfortable and feels like that character, and then I know visually it's going to look really beautiful, especially under those lights. So I was very happy with that. And then when Zoe was cast, there was this thought, because she is sponsored by YSL, that she was going to wear something from YSL. And then I got a call from her stylist that she had decided, like, she's not playing herself. I mean, she's playing herself, but it's not like a real life thing. So she's not really bound to that, and is open to an interpretation of who her character is, not so much who Zoe is, because she is playing this very kind of bratty, Nepo type actress in our show, and especially in that scene at the Golden Globes. And so we discussed the color pink. I had also said pink would look really nice in that environment, especially up with Patty's bronze. And then I knew that Seth was going to wear that brown Cucinelli tuxedo. And I visited a local vintage dealer, and the first thing I saw was that beautiful Galliano for Dior gown that was just so iconic, and I thought would be perfect for Zoe too. It was her size, and I sent it to Zoe. She's very happy with it. I think that when you're able to kind of zero in on something and not have like a rack of things, but you're like very clear that as the costume designer, you're very confident about something, and then the actor is very confident about something, that it just makes everybody feel good about it, especially the filmmakers and all of that. But yeah.
He says hi.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Hey, Maya, Tyler.
Drums is the perfect instrument for that. I think one of the benefits of a percussive score is that you can do a lot of things. You can accentuate a lot of things. You can start, you can stop, you can change very quickly from one thing to another. And it doesn't really intrude too much. And it also doesn't quite spell out, are we supposed to be feeling? Because sometimes with scores, what happens to me is that, okay, it's a sad scene, so then you get the minor strings, or it's an action scene, and then you get the arpeggiators that and then, you know, it can get very predictable, I think. So one of the things that I think is beneficial with the drum score is that I don't feel it doesn't get quite predictable, and I can propel the scene with a lot of ingredients and also with a lot of tension. I love to have in my kit different instruments that are trashy sounding, just a little like uncomfortable almost. And then you start finding things that work best for certain things. For example, on scenes where they're just kind of walking and talking with them, there's not much going on except what they're saying and the motion of the camera. I figured, like, for example, like a kind of light swing, but with the bass drum, and it just kind of sets a nice bed for that.
It's like the perfect marriage of artistry and technicality. You got Birdman, Children of Men, Goodfellas.
Or when it's a softer conversation, and I realized that, for example, a jazz waltz beat with brushes, just kind of in the background, that kind of sets, again, a nice bed but without getting too much in the way. And then there's some other parts where, for example, in the Scorsese scene on the first episode, where there's a lot of stopping and starting, and you can see Seth's character really, his wheels are turning constantly. So that one, I really tried to do a lot of starts and stops. Start when they would say something important and then stop right before they said something important.
Your film is about Kool-Aid.
Yeah, in a sense, I guess.
In a sense.
In a sense.
Yeah,
you
great,
could.
great.
I also understand as a jazz musician the value of space. And a lot of times that space accentuates way better than if you're actually hitting something with music. The scenes that feel like there's impending doom, like the ones with Bryan Cranston, that it feels like there's always something terrible about to happen. Deep mallets, like if it was like a war beat. Dun, dun, dun. And then a lot of reverb and little colors all over the place that I felt like that worked really well.
I'm about to get promoted or fired.
There's 2 episodes where they told me these episodes are going to be very different and we need very different music. There's the 4th episode, The Missing Reel, and they wanted a noir kind of score. So that one was a lot of fun because I was able to add horns, strings, woodwinds, bass, keyboards, harp, all kinds of other colors.
It would have been really nice to be able to throw a rap party with everyone, but I guess that's too expensive, huh?
And that was a lot of fun. So the end scene where they finally realize that Olivia Wilde is the culprit, and from that point all the way to the end where there's a chase and then they go down the hill and then Sal gets hit by a car, all these things, that was a lot of fun because it's so fast moving and there was a lot of horns and accents, and I was able to do that.
Looks like that's gonna have to get
Don't do that, no.
And then on the 10th episode, they also wanted something specific for that episode. The tension just keeps ratcheting up and ratcheting up and ratcheting up. And I was trying to find a way to do that in a cool and logical way. So what I started doing is kind of doing the same score, but with bass and horns and a lot of accents. And then every time the scene moved up to another level of tension, then I would basically move everything a half step up, modulate, so that now you hear it higher, and then I would also ratchet up the metronome maybe by 5 clicks.
Okay, you guys seem like you have this under control. We're gonna go check on Zoe Kravitz
Maddie,
here.
no, you gotta pull the ripcord. It's so far away, they won't show me.
I don't know what to tell you, Zoe. It's not that high.
You keep hearing the same thing, but it's just higher and faster every time. And that was a lot of fun to do too.
Antonio, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate getting a behind-the-scenes look at how you score the series. This was great.
Oh, thank you, Marco. Appreciate it, man.
Cameron, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
This was really amazing.
Yeah, thank you.